I'm Carly Steele here at South by Southwest in partnership with Kinolime, talking to some of the festival's top storytellers all about their filmmaking process and how they broke into the industry. Let's make movies together.
Hi, my name is Tomas Pais, and I am the creator of a show called Metal Man that is in competition in the Indie Pilots section at South by Southwest 2023.
Now, what can you tell us about Metal Man?
Metal Man is a show about a heavy metal handyman who goes out on jobs to fix things.
It's a sick concept, by the way.
And he always gets entangled in the lives of his unruly customers.
Yeah.
He's a chill guy for the most part, but he's he's tall, he's got long hair, he's got a beard, he's lean. It's not a part that I wrote for anybody in particular. I don't imagine who's going to play the part. I really don't. And he's tatted up, and he's got this sort of like mean, aggressive, like metal nature about him. But really, he's just serious about one thing, which is maintaining the chill vibes that he's come to love in his life.
Now, what was your inspiration, though? How did this story come about?
So I guess it's safe to say that I'm kind of handy around the house.
Yeah, it's a good quality.
Which is helpful. I like to do things with my hands.
Yeah.
I also really enjoy helping my friends.
Yeah.
I was helping a friend build a tiki bar in the back of his house,
Right.
my buddy John. And we had a great time, but also like I very much got entangled in like stuff going on with him and his life and his roommates and stuff, and I just remember kind of being like a calming presence at times.
Yeah.
And in conversations with other friends, I was like, it's like, oh, there's a show here. There's something here, and especially because when you get to go to all these handy jobs, it's endless possibilities. Mm-hmm. So I put it together, and here we are.
Now, what was your biggest challenge in getting it made, from writing to actually getting it on the screen?
The biggest challenge was probably, and not to sound redundant, I'm sure everybody's heard about this, but we were set to shoot this pilot in, I think it was March or April of 2020, mm-hmm. and then everything kind of happened.
Yeah.
And then once that fell apart, it was just like, okay, how am I going to get this made? And honestly, like, it was actually nice to know that there was still a thing to get me through that. I'm sure a lot of people were like desperately grasping for some kind of coping mechanism, and it was a nice thing to have. Like, wow, at least I've got this. And honestly, we lost the financing, we lost the director, and I was like, how the hell am I ever going to make this work? And then they were offering these SBA loans, these like small business loans, to help people during COVID. And I said, well, I am technically a business.
Yep.
And I am creating jobs after all.
Yeah.
And so I applied for one of those loans, and they approved.
That's so smart.
And so I used that to then finance the making of the pilot.
That's amazing.
And in hopes that something would happen with it one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
And because I will be paying that off for the next 30 years. It's low interest, which is nice.
It's very smart, though.
And now here we are at South by.
That's so exciting. Yeah. I love that. What's been the first screenplay you've ever sold?
I've never actually sold a screenplay.
You just had them made.
But I've made screenplays that I've co-written.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm clear about that because of so that all of my collaborators out there don't think that I'm trying to take credit for anything that I didn't do. And that's just kind of traditionally that's how I work. Coming at it from an actor's perspective, which is primarily what I do. Mm-hmm. I'll spend a lot of time creating a character, mm-hmm. and then sort of building something around that, whether it's a world or whether it's scenes, dialogue, and then kind of working and workshopping the characters and the stories and what I think the world needs to be and what needs to happen with very, very talented other screenwriters. And that's kind of the key to this, is making sure you partner with somebody who's really talented, because then they bring out the best in you.
Yeah.
But the first screenplay that I ever, aside from some shorts, I had a feature that I had made, again, collaborated with a friend back in 2016. And that was probably the first time that I felt like, oh, I really had a big part in this.
Yeah.
And it did well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. What do you think are the biggest challenges for independent screenwriters with the independent model, because essentially there's not really a lot of transparency with the process of how things get made. Every single person I ask, it's a different story. Like, you were very intrepid with the small business loan, but I think for a lot of people, if they don't have contacts or a network with agents, managers, producers, they don't know how to get their stuff out there and seen and made.
Carly, that's a great question.
Yeah.
There are so many challenges. There are so many hurdles. And like you said, for every person that's trying to do it, it's going to be their version of those challenges. So I'm hard-pressed for having something very specific to say about what I think the biggest challenge is or the biggest sort of thing to overcome. But what I can say is that, you have to, I think it was The Artist's Way, one of those, it was a book. And I remember reading something, and I'm going to butcher this, but it was like, you have to be willing to be a bad artist in order to be an artist at all.
Yeah.
And what I extracted from that is that you just, no matter what happens, you just figure out how to make stuff. Which is kind of what this was for me. I was like, I wasn't working. I mean, none of us were.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when I was younger, all I did was make stuff with my friends, and that's kind of like best case scenario.
Yeah.
So find your community. There are plenty of us out there, and just keep making stuff and be willing to learn and be willing to keep sort of learning from whatever it is that you're doing, how to get better, et cetera, et cetera. Just keep doing it.
That's so true. That's actually why I partnered with Kinolime, because what they're doing is really cool. You can submit your script as a writer. I'm totally going to do this. And then people will read it. It's essentially like getting free coverage. And then they vote up the ones they like the best. And the one that they like the best will get made, because it's also a production company with full financing.
Fantastic.
It's really cool because it kind of democratizes the process. And I think sometimes there's a lot of diamonds in the rough that just don't get to rise to the top.
It's like crowdsourcing the film industry.
Yeah,
I love that.
which is, it's like an algorithm for the film industry.
That's great. Do you guys do shorts, features, TV shows?
Everything.
Like everything. And you just kind of have it like...
But mainly features
mainly
is the
features.
focus, but it's going to be shorts as well. And yeah, it's really cool, right? I'm
That's
submitting
very cool.
my scripts. I love it. Plus, you'll get feedback. I mean, whether that's good or not, but you'll have so many people's feedback, and these are the people who want to see it. So it's kind of cool to hear from the audience.
It's fantastic.
I think the Oscars are interesting. We were just talking about how the Oscars were last night, and it was an exciting moment for independent film with the winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I'll say, yeah. I was in a room full of independent filmmakers, and when they won Best Picture, the room erupted as if we had just won the Super Bowl or something.
Yeah.
It felt personal.
Yeah.
It felt like they were one of ours.
Yeah.
Our team was the winning touchdown.
Yeah.
And it was so cathartic and such a release, because aside from the quality of the film that they made and the merit of how good it is, which is everything that they got is well deserved. It also, I think, paves the way for a different kind of filmmaker. A filmmaker that leads with kindness and humanity, empathy, and being a good example as a human being, aside from being good at what you do. And I think that resonates with a lot of us, independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
Who don't just want to get ahead, who prioritize community and friendship as well, and want to have a nice time, because there is room, and it just got created, even more room got created for good people in this industry.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of good people. I just feel like it's not always been the brand.
Right.
And I want that to be more of the brand of hey, good people can do cool things too.
Well, at least it's people at all, because something we've been talking about a lot is ChatGPT. How do you feel about ChatGPT?
I'll tell you how I feel about ChatGPT.
Go on.
It feels like aliens have arrived on this planet, and a few people are talking about it, and most people are just going about their day. Because I think this is very much...
They want to pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think it's quite literally that. I think it's just it can't be that good. It's not going to be as good. Yeah, but considering what it's already capable of now, it's, it harkens back to the days when the first emails were getting sent. People are like, okay, this is never going to be a thing.
Right.
And it's like completely ubiquitous, and we can't imagine a life without it. The downside to it, without getting too meta, is the fact that it starts to, or it begs the question of how valuable does art become when it is no longer created by a human being?
Yeah.
Because, art is valuable to us. Art, writing, any sort of creative endeavor, and the reason it's valuable is because it's inherently unique to us. It's an expression of the human condition, and it is an extension of our entire existence.
Yeah.
And when you introduce something like that, and I'm not saying that it will devalue art and what art means, but I think it will spark a conversation about okay, well, is this value all self-endowed? Do we choose to make it important because it's important to us, because we're important? And then what? And then how do we choose the value of this art that's created by this other entity?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long-winded answer.
No, I think it's a really good answer. It's definitely a lot to think about. It's an interesting time for screenwriters.
It's an interesting time for screenwriters indeed. And I know I kind of shifted over to just art in general, but yeah, for screenwriters especially, I think you're going to be fine. I also think it's a wonderful tool to just kind of use and then have it be a skeleton or a structure of something that you can then go back in and
imbue with your own personal touch. Totally.
And I'm sure that's more than I understand how scary it must feel for writers and screenwriters. And as much as I have the label of being a writer, I'm not quite as scared about it. Again, I think
that's good. No, you have a chill vibe overall.
Oh, I'll take that. Well, but also it's kind of one of those things where it's it is just the natural progression of things for things to change. Things they will change inevitably. The same way that we weren't always human, if you believe in that.
Yeah.
We may not be human one day, and we'll evolve into something completely different. And everything in between that, from the moment we do become human to when we don't anymore, everything is going to change progressively. And so this might be a very scary time, again, for what is art and why and what is the value of it, because it means so much to us. But it might just create a whole new paradigm. It might just create a whole new way of experiencing life.
Totally.
And it feels weird because it's new and it's different. And we don't know what to do with it. We don't know how to oh God, we're going to lose industries. We're going to lose this. We're going to lose that. And that's scary. But it's also we also lost a lot of other industries that were replaced by new technologies. And it sucked for a lot of people then. And we don't even think about that anymore. We're just kind of take it for granted now.
I think that's a good perspective. Well, listen, in this moment, we're celebrating your work here at the festival. Congratulations, and thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
It's so nice to see you.
Yeah.